Hello, I'm Balraj. Welcome to Chemisado. So in today's video, I will talk about the central place theory by Christaller. And while discussing this theory, I will also talk about the modifications that were done in it and also its applicability. And I have observed that not many videos on YouTube have discussed the modification and application of the central place theory. So I will talk about this aspect also in this video. Moreover, I will also discuss what kind of geographical language or terminology we can use to get better marks in the exam. So please watch the video till the end. And so let's start the video. So let us now understand what the central place theory, I will address it as CPT, is all about. So CPT is basically a theory of functional hierarchy, Hierarchy, functional hierarchy of urban settlements. Now if you remember, in geography there are two other theories of hierarchy. One is rank size rule and the other is primate city concept. So these two are based on population. So here the hierarchy is decided by the population, whereas in the central place theory the hierarchy of an urban settlement is decided by the function or the role that it plays. So now let us see what the CPT is actually trying to find out. So it is trying to find out an order in the size and spacing of urban settlements, and for this it has used some simplifying assumptions. So let us look at those assumptions. Since the CPT is based on certain assumptions, we can call it a normative theory. Normative, Normative. Now I have used this word because these are the kind of words that help you in getting better marks. Now a normative theory is one that has certain basic assumptions and then it says that this ought to happen, that this will happen if there are these certain assumptions. So you can say that CPT is a normative theory. So if we look at this term isotropic surface, so an isotropic surface is a kind of surface that is uniform in terms of terrain, soil, climate, etc., and it also provides equal ease of access in all the directions to everyone. So this is called an isotropic surface. There is only one type of transport available. So what this means is that on this landscape there is only one type of transport, and this will ensure that the cost of transportation is same everywhere and the time required would also be same. Now the people that live there, they are evenly distributed and their purchasing power is also the same. Moreover, the people that live there are logical and economic, that is, their decision making is based on economic reasons and not emotional reasons. And the demand of the people and their income is also same across this landscape. The central place theory has two basic principles, and these two principles are the principle of centralization and the principle of hierarchy. See, if you look at the principle of centralization, it is almost like a universal principle. For example, the sun is at the center of the solar system and the planets revolve around it. Similarly, if you look at an atom, the nucleus of an atom is at the center and the electrons rotate around it. And similarly, we can say that a bazaar or a market is at the center and there are peripheral settlements around it. So we can see the centralization as serving as a relationship between the central settlement and the peripheral settlements around it. The second principle is the principle of hierarchy. So hierarchy refers to a system where we arrange things or phenomena or people according to their importance. For example, in the military there are ranks, for example lieutenant, captain, major. So these are military ranks. Similarly, in the administration there can be an arrangement of hierarchy, for example SDM, ADM, DM or divisional commissioner. So this system of hierarchy is also applicable in the settlements. So it is also almost like a universal phenomena that we see around us. These are the 6 derived concepts, and the first is the concept of a central place. So a central place is that settlement which provides functions and services to the settlements in its periphery, and for a settlement to become a central place, it should provide certain services that can be of regular nature. And if you look at the second, which is the central goods and services, so this can be seen as a synonymous to the functions that a central place provides. For example, if we take the example of certain services, so if we look at Kota, so Kota can be considered providing central services of engineering coaching to all the places in its hinterland. Similarly, Delhi can be considered as a place that provides some central services to all the places in its hinterland. So for example, the civil service coaching, so this can be considered a central service of Delhi. The concept of the complementary area. So the complementary area is that area which a central place serves, and it is the focal point of all the goods and services that would be required for the peripheral settlements. And the complementary area would be larger if a central place is more important. For example, the complementary area of Delhi in the context of civil service coaching would extend for the entire length and breadth of the country. And if we take the example of Allahabad, so the complementary area of Allahabad for civil service coaching would be smaller than the complementary area of Delhi for civil service coaching. Now let us look at the concept of threshold. So threshold is the minimum population that is required in the peripheral regions of a central place for it to offer some goods or services. For example, if there is a village, and in the village if you want to set up a car showroom, so it will not be very viable and profitable because it may not have adequate number of customers to support the sales of cars in that village. So therefore it will not exist in a village. So it will most likely exist in a bigger city. So threshold is actually the minimum population that you require in the periphery for certain goods and services to be offered by the central place. So now let us look at the range of goods. So this refers to the maximum distance that someone is willing to travel to purchase a certain service or certain goods. For example, if you want to buy a car and if you live in a village, you would be willing to travel hundreds of kilometers to buy the car. But if you have to buy a loaf of bread, then you would not want to travel 100 kilometers for buying it. So this is what is the range of goods. So more important and more expensive goods normally have a larger range. The concept of centrality. So centrality refers to the surplus goods and services that a central place can provide after its own local consumption. For example, if we look at Bikaner, so Bikaner provides sweets and namkeens to a lot of surrounding places even after its local consumption. So the surplus that is left after its local consumption can be considered the centrality, because it denotes the power to supply the goods and services to the surrounding areas. Now let us see which can be the best shape for a complementary area. See, if we consider a circle as a complementary area, there would be certain advantages. One advantage would be that all the locations would be located at an equal distance from the central place. But there are certain problems with keeping circles as complementary areas. For example, if you do the tangential fit of circles, you will notice that many places get left out. So these places would be left out. So these places would not be served. Now if we try to bring the circles close, then these areas would get doubly served. So they would be overlapping. Therefore, Christaller considered the shape of a hexagon to be the best shape for a complementary area. And one of the reasons for this was also that he believed that hexagons were the closest approximations of a circle. And if you look at these hexagons, they also fit perfectly with one another, and they jam-pack the landscape completely without any areas being either doubly served or any areas being left out. So now let us understand the concept of nesting pattern, and this is a very important concept in the theory, so please pay attention. So the nesting pattern basically refers to the complementary area of lower order settlements should nest within the complementary area of the higher order settlements. So now let us understand this graphically with examples. For example, if this is a hexagon and this is the complementary area of this central place. So now let us consider this central place as the national capital, and on the vertices let us consider the state capitals. Now if we go further, and around the state capital if we make district headquarters, and now if we go even further, and around the district headquarters if we draw blocks, so these are the blocks around the state capital. And now if we go even further, and if around the block we draw villages, so now let us understand the concept of the nesting pattern. So notice that the complementary area of this hexagon is nesting within this larger hexagon, and this larger hexagon is ultimately nesting within this bigger hexagon. So all these are nesting within the complementary area of this higher order central place. So now what is the advantage of this? The advantage of this is that the lower order services that are available in the lower order settlements, for example the services that are available in villages, for example if milk is available in the villages, it is also available in the blocks, and it is also available in the district headquarters, and it is also available in the states. So it means that the functions of the lower order settlements should also be available within the higher order settlement. So this is the nesting pattern. So if you remember, I earlier said that CPT is a normative theory. So now I want to give you another term which you can use while writing answers on models and theories. So this term is deductive, D-E-D-U-C-T-I-V-E. So CPT is a deductive model. So there are two types of models. One is deductive and the other is inductive. So I will explain the differences between these two so that you can use them in the exam. So an inductive model is one in which you go from particular to general. So for example, if you take 5 samples of water and you see that it is boiling at 100 degrees centigrade. So now you can come to a general conclusion that water would boil at 100 degrees centigrade. Therefore, the inductive model is considered a scientific method. On the other hand, in the deductive model, what you do is you first make a hypothesis and then test it. For example, if I say I can use the cosmic waves to generate electricity, or if I say I can use cosmic waves to generate hydrogen from water directly. So now if I put it on ground and then test it, so then it would be called a deductive model. And this CPT is also a deductive model because Christaller has made the theory without testing it on ground. He just did some surveys and made the theory, and he said that this would be these hexagonal patterns and the central place, and this would be the landscape that we can get, and this is how the functions would be served by this theory. So he has first made the theory and then it would be tested on ground. So that is why it is a deductive model. It is a deductive model. Since we have seen that the CPT is a normative theory and we have also seen that CPT is a deductive model. So while writing the introduction, you can say that CPT is a normative deductive model. So now let us look at the functional basis of the CPT. So in the functional basis, Christaller has talked about the marketing principle, he has talked about the traffic principle, and he has also talked about the administrative principle. And in these he has talked about a constant called K. K here denotes the centrality or the potential to serve. I will explain this in detail in just a while. So let us look at all these one by one. So now let us understand the marketing principle. So according to this principle, this central place, this higher order central place, would serve not just its own area. So let us consider this A. It will also serve 1/3 area of the immediately lower order central place. So this will become A by 3. So for example, if this is the national capital and if this is the state capital, so this will not just serve its own area, that is the entire A, it will also serve the 1/3 area of the state capitals. So from this he has calculated the value of K. So we will get, let's see how we get the value of k to be 3. So k is equal to a plus a by 3 into 6. So this way we will get k is equal to 3a. So this means that the value of k here is denoting a larger complementary area. So this would be the larger complementary area. This would be the larger complementary area which this k value would serve. So on the basis of marketing of goods and services, we get the value of k to be 3. Now let us look at the traffic or the transportation principle. So here Christaller has considered the value of k to be 4. So let us see how we get this value. So in the transportation principle, he says that this higher order central place will not just serve its own complementary area, it will also serve half of the complementary area of the immediately lower order hierarchy central place. So it will cover, so if we consider this a, so this will be a by 2, a by 2 and a by 2. And here we have to notice that the transportation lines, so these are the transportation lines. So the transportation lines have been drawn in such a way that they cover maximum possible settlement. So see, this is covering this central place, it is also covering this central place, and it is also considering this central place. So you can consider this, let's say you can consider this as the national capital. So then you can consider this as the state capital. So now let us see how we get the value of k to be 4. So you can just simply write k is equal to a plus a upon 2 into 6. So what we get is 4a. So therefore we get the value of k to be 4. Now let us understand the administrative principle. So in the administrative principle, this central place should not just serve this area, that is, it should provide administrative services not just to its own complementary area, it should also provide administrative services to the immediately lower order central place. But now in administration there can be a problem where some area may not come in it. So that is why what he did was, he did this thing. So he left out this area from this central from the complementary area of this central place. But since he left out this area, he captured equal area from this possibly existing central place. So this was again captured. So if let's say if this was 1/7, so he captured 1/7 here. So he left this 1/7, but to make up the loss, he captured 1/7 of this possible hexagon. So he did this with all the situations. So he left out this 1/7 and he captured 1/7 from here. So overall what we get is, this would be a, and this entire a, because he has left out this area but captured this area. So this would be full a. So therefore we will get k is equal to a plus 6a. So therefore we will get 7a. So this is how we get the value of k to be 7 in the administrative principle. So now let us talk about the modification of the central place theory by a German economist, August Losch. And if you remember, Christaller had taken k as a constant, but what Losch did was, he considered that different goods and services would have different values of k. So in his theory, k is a variable, and different goods and services would have their own different hexagonal patterns. And he took hundreds of more than 100 different goods and services, and then he made their own pattern of hexagons, and then he overlapped different hexagonal patterns of different goods and services, and after overlapping these, he rotated all these on a common center, and after this emerged this diagram. So here what you see here is, these are city rich sectors and city poor sectors. The city rich sectors are those sectors where more functions are available, and the city poor sectors are those where lesser functions are available. So this was in brief the modification of the central place theory by August Losch. So if we talk about the application of the central place theory, let me add that it is a normative model, it is an idealized model, and therefore it is very difficult for it to have application in the real world scenario. And if we apply it to the pre-existing settlements, we'll find a lot of deviations from what these theory states. However, the theory can be used when we are starting a new settlement from scratch. For example, if we have to set up a new country, then we can decide where the national capital can be, where the state capitals can be, where the blocks can be, where the district headquarters can be, and where the villages can be. Although I must add that in some parts of Germany it was used, and even in the polders of Netherlands, which are reclaimed lands from the sea, this theory was used. And actually this theory is useful only when you apply it to virgin lands where there have not been any settlements in the past, and when you're just starting afresh, there this theory can be useful. So this can be the application of the central place theory in real life. And thank you for watching this video. If you found it useful, please consider subscribing to my channel Camisado, and thank you for watching.